Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and joining me, my host companion, Sejan Sarowick. Sejan?
Are you doing okay over there before we go any further? You sounded like there was a little bit of a you dropped something? No, what's going on?
No, no, I was frustrated. I was frustrated because I was ready to go. You were ready to go, and just GarageBand would not cooperate today.
Yeah.
And there's some behind the Say curtain that we record with GarageBand.
Well, it's okay, Devin, because I am boosted.
Oh,
I
congratulations!
carry us today.
That's, you know what? I'm glad. We're just ripping the Band-Aid off of this right now,
Yeah,
right
that's
here,
what I
right
did
now.
this morning. Ripped it right off like a big boy, like a real man.
I'm very happy that you're boosted. I've been boosted, well, since the day I was eligible to get boosted. I actually, they're like, you can get boosted because you work with students in your job. And I'm like, all right, cool, I'll go do it. And they're like, oh, no, wait, 6 months haven't passed since you got your second shot.
Oh,
So,
right, yeah.
so I was like, oh, okay. So then why are you telling me I can get, because you can go get boosted, but I can't, right? Like,
I do, yeah. You're eligible for boosting, all right? They were just wanted you to know.
but that's not how they say it. That's not the nomenclature that they use. It's anything like that. I don't know.
Well,
But
you
here's
just
what
gotta
we're,
sit and wait on your booster seat for a little bit. It's okay.
it was great going in to get that booster because we went at like 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and we were the only people in there. It was a grand old time. Plus, it erased the memories of having watched Promising Young Woman before we went to get our second shot, which kind of cast a pallor on the whole day. The whole day being getting vaccinated from the disease
Terrible
causing a
disease.
pandemic.
Yeah. No, it was very sci-fi though. It was very cool. I don't know if you were so early that maybe they didn't have this technology yet, but they've got those like through the Band-Aid shots that they're doing now.
No,
It's
we didn't.
pretty rad.
We don't have
Yeah,
that.
like they put this like little like this. It looks like an arc reactor thing like on your arm, and then they take out the needle and they go straight through it into your arm, and like you can't tell if it's in or not, which was really cool. Like as somebody that's not a huge fan of shots, like I'm never gonna like refuse one because I'm scared of needles or anything. But like I don't love it. I don't go about my day hoping for my next one.
Oh, if you don't
So
get
like
your
I was,
fix from a needle,
yeah,
that's good,
and then
Sejan. Also,
and then
I have to ask before the moment loses, what did
uh
it feel like to not know that something was in from the other side?
mm. Boo. Um, but yeah, man, and then they pull it out and because the Band-Aid's already on, like it catches any possible excess blood or anything like that, and then you just walk around. And then this morning I woke up and I feel like I ran 10 miles yesterday and lifted a truck. My body is like, oh, you definitely did something important yesterday. So I feel pretty good.
That's good. Well, congratulations. And I'm going to use this as a jumping off point for a game that we played yesterday. We went on a drive yesterday, just a drive, like nowhere in particular to go. The journey was the destination. Kind of felt like old times again, even though we didn't
Yeah, I was
ever
gonna say,
really get out
miss
of the
those days.
car, right?
Yeah.
Um, or like, we didn't go to Philadelphia. We just like went in a loop through Connecticut, then back into Rhode Island. But lovely scenery. Like, there are reasons why leafers come down to this area. But a game that we played along the way was characters unvaxxed. And there's a thing. And basically you name a fictional character and you say whether or not you think they would get the vaccine or not.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. I just want to throw a couple of the ones that we came up with and see what your take on them would be, right? So we're going to lead with Scooby-Doo and the whole gang. So Freddy, Daphne, Velma, and Shaggy.
They all eventually would because Velma would have worn them down, but I think Daphne and Fred would have been not as quick, not necessarily hesitant, but not as quick. Shaggy would be on board because he does not want to get sick, and Scooby-Doo can't get vaccinated because he's a puppy.
There you go. That's Daphne actually didn't come up in the conversation yesterday, which was something. It was all on Freddy. Freddy's not getting it.
Well, she strikes me as the kind of person that in the world, she is in no way like anti-vax or anti-human. Like she does not strike me as somebody that would be anti-pride, that sort of stuff. But she also strikes me as a person that never has to deal with any of that stuff. So it doesn't occur to her that it might be important so much as like Velma's like, well, we're gonna all go get vaccinated today, and she's just like, Cool. Like,
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. I think the one who would be the holdout is Freddie Jones.
Freddie
Fred
Jones would want to know
Jones.
what's up.
Yeah.
He'd be one of those guys that's like, it's not that I don't believe in vaccinations, but the science is not sound yet. And then the CDC would okay it, and then he'd be like, well, I'm not ready until we've seen it out for a year, and then it's out for a year, and then he's like,
Let's see who's really behind COVID-19.
yeah, exactly.
Red herring. No, it wasn't
But I
red
do
herring.
think he would be worn down eventually, because I think Velma has that ability. Velma Dinkley would wear everyone down into getting vaccinated.
I honestly think that if Velma could pull it off, she'd vaccinate them all in their sleep. Don't have to worry about it.
Man.
All
Oh,
right.
Freddie, you've been vaccinated for months. What?
What? What are you talking about? All right, so this is one that Will suggested, Homer Simpson.
See, this is too easy, though, because it's the same. It's the Velma Dinkley issue. Like, Lisa would make sure that her family was vaccinated, especially with her father being at risk because of being overweight. Like, there's no way that he would not be vaccinated, but it would be an episode of him not wanting to get vaccinated because he's Homer, not because he's anti-vaccine, but because he's an idiot for some other reason.
He's
But by
afraid of the
end
needle.
episode-
Like, it's that. Like, the whole thing is that he doesn't want to get the needle. And then when I saw you do it, Lisa, that big needle going into your arm. I can't do a Homer Simpson voice. I guess I just found out. I realized that I could do it too.
Yeah, but that would be the episode, right? Like it would definitely be a story about convincing Homer to get vaccinated, and it would be Lisa. That would be the one.
I've spiraled into the beauty of that episode is Bart selling fake vaccinations on the playground.
Yeah.
A la cootie shots.
But it would be because he got vaccinated in the beginning because Marge made him, and he showed up to school with the Band-Aid, and everybody was talking about how cool it was that he was vaccinated, and that would lead to him realizing that he could make some money off of it.
He can make money off of it, especially, and they just announced a booster. then Bart would probably
that's the tag just before the credits. The booster announcement and Bart looking at the camera shifty-eyed and like Mr. Burns style, like excellent, and then credit roll like that.
Love it. This was from my mother. This is just one. Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, which is what kicked off the whole game.
He would not. He would be anti-vax, and he would think it's because he's too healthy to get sick. That would be his entire attitude about the entire thing.
I mean, my argument was that vaccines weren't invented when Gaston was alive, but then I had to be told, well, no, he's living in 2021, Devon.
That's not the point of the conversation.
Stop bringing logic into this.
The exact way you phrased it to me was, if presented with the vaccine, would this character take it?
Yeah, Gaston wouldn't. He'd just start eating 6 dozen eggs every morning. That's the only vaccination I need.
But you're going to get salmonella. Never mind.
I eat 5 dozen eggs already. You're going to turn into an egg, Gaston. Okay, and so this is a good one. Cosmo Kramer. Which I guess we could then discuss everybody on Seinfeld, but specifically Cosmo Kramer was the one that we talked about.
That's a weird pull. It could go either way, and it depends really on
It depends on the writer of the episode.
It depends on what context the vaccine is presented to him in, right? If it's that nobody yet has been meets the line for qualification, but he somehow has a way to get one early, I think he definitely would, right? Like, I think that's like a good like Cosmo Kramer escapade, right? Maybe because of Newman and government workers being able to get it early is about him.
So
like,
he gets a job at the post office. That's a good one. The idea that I had was that Jerry is locking the door. Because he obviously would be afraid of COVID-19, germaphobe that he is. So, and Kramer, you can't come in here until you're vaccinated. I got the mask on, Jerry. I got the mask on.
They would do it for episodes, right? Because one episode would be about how he's going to stay home, and then the next couple of episodes would be about him learning how to do like online sets, right? Like doing it over like Zoom or whatever. Oh man. Yeah.
I just like the George thought of it is that he's into like the nurse at the vaccination thing. Mm-hmm. So he's going and getting vaccinated. Or like
Elaine would be the one that gets the vaccine, but then immediately acts like that means that she's fine.
And
so
she gets
just,
COVID.
No masks anymore. And then eventually she ends up getting COVID because she just does everything that you're not supposed to, even though you're vaccinated.
Come on, Jerome, I'm vaccinated. This is fun. This is more fun than I expected.
Tim the Toolman Taylor.
Oh, Tim the Toolman Taylor? Yeah, of course. In fact, all All the stuff about the 5G and the boosting and that, more power. He'd want to get 2 vaccines. He would develop a vaccine, a freaking minigun that could just vaccinate everybody, and it'd be sponsored by Binford Tools.
Oh my god!
I know too much about home fucking improvement. Holy shit!
Watching, but like, you know how they used to always do the bits where they would do the various tools that they would be like QVC style showing off on TV, right? Doing that for a bunch of like different COVID things, like a mask and stuff like that. I see that bit for sure.
Yeah, it would work.
Man, we should write for TV. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, well, that's a discussion for after the show, because I woke up with that thought in my head that we should start writing for TV, because the seminal 2000 show, people are going to be hungry for it in like 4 years. So like, if we get started on it now, we could be in there. We just need to know. We need to use all of our knowledge about TV to make sure that we don't release it on the world before the world is ready for it.
Exactly. We gotta figure out the next How I Met Your Mother, right? Because that was a 2005-ish show, right?
Yep.
And then hold off on it just a little bit until we see the first one kind of fall on its face. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we do what we do. But we also need to make sure that. But we also need to make sure that we're not the one that feels like it's just ripping off the next How I Met Your Mother.
Of course.
Like, it's a delicate balance.
A little bit to the right. Oh man.
All right. So I have 2 more. I have 3 more that I want to get through, and it's important for what we're going for. So Yogi Bear, right? Now, yes, he's a bear, so obviously not. What do you think?
I don't think he'd get one.
I'm not getting that shot, boo-boo. I'm smarter than the average bear.
It'd be another Homer Simpson style afraid of the needle thing, right? And then what would happen is that they would definitely vaccinate him when he's hibernated. So there you go. A little bit of Velma, a little bit of Homer.
Yeah, I just would love the conversations with Yogi Bear. That he's smarter than the average bear.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, Yogi.
Or we could just start doing Yogi Bear stuff. Apparently we got those 2 characters down. What the hell? Fred Flintstone.
Fred Flintstone would be vaccinated. He's got a very tuned in like subset of people around him. Like that's the joke of that show, right? Is his wife is always hip and like doing the cool thing. So like they would get vaccinated. They'd ask the boys to get vaccinated. Barney would do it because he loves Betty. I was about to say Wilma, and I was like, that's a whole other
he
story.
does love Wilma, but that's for our Flintstones reboot, because the world's also ripe for that.
Yeah. I don't know. Seth MacFarlane, I think, still has the rights for that one.
Right. So it's got to be expiring soon, though, right? Because nothing came from it. But imagine that, like a high drama scandal version of the Flintstones.
The Soprano style of it. Wait a minute. We saw the.
No, we already saw. That's Harvey Birdman. Interesting you bring up Bird. Actually, the question that Fred Flintstone, as soon as he tells him that if he gets it, he can go bowling into water buffalo meetings again, he would get the vaccination.
Exactly.
But I think Barney might actually be a little bit reticent. I mean, yes, his love of Betty and his son would be there, but he'd be the one, I don't know, Fred.
Well, I almost feel like what it would be is that he would have gotten his off camera before the episode started, but he would talk about how he was hesitant to get it.
Yeah. All right. And then so the last one, which is a good tie into everything that we've said so far, is George Jetson.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, I want to believe that he would just get it, because at that point in the future, are there people that are anti-vax?
Oh, that's a dangerous thing. The problem with George Jetson is he's not going to be eligible for the vaccination until 2027. Because right now he's the zygote. He was conceived over Thanksgiving weekend. And his birthday, and we're going to celebrate it on the show, so get ready for that, August 27th, 2022.
And I know that we said with Gaston the idea was to bring the character to this point in time.
But he's in this point in time.
But I cannot help but think about the fact that George Jetson having to get a vaccine for COVID-19 in 2040 something, right?
2062 is when the show takes place.
Oh,
Harvey Birdman lied to you.
Oh man.
Yeah. I don't know. It's all crazy stuff. But yeah. Also, credit to Dave Willis for the whole conception of George Jetson thing. It's been really bothering me, like, because he's a guy that I've interacted with at like conventions and stuff, and I've survived his Facebook purge a bunch of times. So like, that's always good when he's like, I'm getting rid of people I don't know, and somehow I survive. I don't
Keep
know.
making that list, man.
Yeah. But it's one of those things. And he was talking about that last year, that like he was going to be prepared for it, and all this stuff. And then I see all these people like stealing the work that he did. And it's the first time that I've kind of been connected to something like that. And it like really makes me upset to see somebody's work taken that way without any credit.
The dark underbelly of the webcomic world.
Yeah. That's very true. Very, very true. Or the dark underbelly of the regular comic world. We've talked about 9 Chickweed Lane on this show, right? It was like a little obsession I had in the early days of the pandemic.
Yeah, it was a newspaper comic that is a little risque, right?
A little risque. It went off the fucking rails this year. It was a story where the predominantly homosexual character Seth, for Pride, right? This started on Pride, realized that he's heterosexual. Whoa. And left his longtime, I don't know if he's a husband or boyfriend. There are like weird conflicting stories about whether or not he was married to his boyfriend or not.
Partner.
Yeah, partner, right? Well, I don't want to say partner because partner on some levels leads to the marriage thing. I think that's where the people who talk about 9 Chickweed Lane, when I tell you the reason why we're talking about it right now, you'll understand, I think, a little bit.
It's not the fact that they decided in the middle of one of the most important weeks of about gay pride, they decided to take a gay character and make them straight.
Yeah, I mean, and the guy who does it, Brooke McEldowney, it very much seems like you're either straight or you're gay, because it could have just been that Seth realizes that he's bisexual, right? Or polyamorous.
The existence of bisexuality in pop culture is
yeah, it's fraught
subject, shall we say?
Yeah. So, but he left his longtime thing to have a dream affair that turned into a real affair with a woman. And it's a former person, because Seth is a dancer, so it's a woman that he danced with when he was younger. It's crazy, but like that's how 9 Chickweed Lane celebrated Pride. And then after the Seth is no longer gay story, they did a lovely little interlude where the twin daughters of the like, I guess, current generation character Edda were like sexually obsessed with their mother's looks.
What?
Like, are we gonna have large breasts like you? But using like 1910s slang to talk about female body parts.
You sure you didn't just like stumble onto some just like boomer hentai website?
Yeah, I mean, you'd like, say that, but it's on Go Comics. There are pictures of it in newspapers, and then the follow up to this weird.
I guess I should say. I guess I should clarify. Not that I don't think that like that any comic out there has like the right to talk about stuff. They do, but the fact that it is contextualized in a really weird way, I mean, is like, what is this doing on a legitimate webcomic?
I mean, it's not a webcomic. It's just a real comic. It's published. It's still
a published comic.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you talk about the context of it, because they followed up the 2-year-olds objectify their mother storyline by going back in time. There's a character in the strip called Thorax, and he's supposedly a 1,000-year-old space alien who lives on Earth. He's an interplanetary being.
Okay.
These are words, and it went back to him during World War II, where he was a spy with the Royal Air Force, and his whole thing was to feed bad information to a known German spy. So now this print comic, all sorts of Nazi imagery is being printed in it because of that storyline. And then the fake intel reports that he was doing turned into a science fiction fanfic featuring him as the main character, Charge, and the woman, the spy, being called Pen, and she's a space slattern, which slattern is 1910 slang for whore or prostitute.
Oh, so wow! So is this guy just on like some massive drugs right now, just like producing whatever he can, or
producing
like,
whatever he can, probably without editorial oversight? Oh wait, turns out nobody was reading this comic because the December 1st strip, right, which was printed in the LA Times and is now no longer available on the internet, they used a racial slur, right? They referred to Japanese fighter planes as they would be referred to at the time. So again, not this, but they used the term Jap Zero to refer to the planes in that.
All right.
And that was the one that like got people to call up the LA Times like, why the hell are you printing this at all?
Yeah.
And so the LA Times has announced over the weekend that they're now ceasing the publication of 9 Chickweed Lane in their strip, and they will be reevaluating all of the syndicated strips that they provide in their newspaper. But what it really feels like is that this guy was doing the gay guy comes out as straight for pride, the 2-year-olds objectify their mother sexually, and then the Nazi fan fiction without anybody even reading it. They're just like, it's 9 Chickweed Lane. It's been going since the 90s. We don't need to keep an eye on it. It's not Mallard Fillmore.
Yeah, it's one of those things where probably with everything that's been going on the last few years, it kind of fell to the wayside, shall we?
Right, exactly, yeah.
On this like one particular thing, weird stuff.
Yeah,
man.
it's just like reading it, and then the crazy thing are the people who are going to bat for it, like the daughter of the artist, being like, he only used the contextually relevant terminology. Why are people upset about it? And it's like,
this is the kind of story that they're going to turn around and talk about how this guy got quote unquote canceled.
Right.
And it's not cancel culture. This is consequence.
Yes.
Like, this is what happens when you do a thing like this. You don't get to keep doing a thing like this. That's not cancel-a-say.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's still being carried on Go Comics. I cannot say go read it. I don't want anybody to support Brooke McEldowney at all. I only am familiar with the stuff from the things that I see retweeted and shared on Twitter, right? So I give those people it, but I very rarely, like, there was one that was so absurd. It was Thorax, again, the thousands-year-old interplanetary being, engaging in bathtub sex with a very young woman who might also be an interplanetary being, because her name is Sheriff Id, and I don't know what that's supposed to signify. I'm not going back and reading from the 90s to understand all of the subtext of the crazy fucking comic. But, and her legs are wrapped around him in a way that, like, her body has to just be, like, her spine has become disjointed for her to be able to do what she's doing in the bathtub sex that was published probably right next to Garfield.
Marmaduke just drooling on the next panel.
Yeah, like Dagwood eating a sandwich and just like big eyes at it. It's just, and I'm just like, this right here is the pinnacle of modern art. And from Go Comics, you can get a framed print of any comic that they have. And then, like, I was, like, at the end. I was at the finish line with this whole idea. And then I'm like, no, because the money will go to this crazy person. I can't do it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, man. No, I totally get the whole, like, I don't want to give them the airtime type of thing, but, like, but on the one hand, that's the kind of stuff that probably led to it getting away with as much as it did for this long, right? Is there were so many people out there being like, I don't even want to talk about this or like send people to look at this because, like, you don't want to promote that shit. But then the problem is after a while, if they go unchecked, this is the kind of shit that gets out there.
So I just wanted to signal boost the fact that the LA Times has pulled 9 Chickweed Lane. So if you have it in your local paper, it's like the tiniest bit of pressure to be like, hey, you know the LA Times is no longer running this comic. Why are you guys?
Yeah.
So clean up your local news rag.
Yeah. You filthy animals.
Yeah, filthy animals. Man. Sorry, it's just, I mean, this is a thing that, like, morbid curiosity more than anything has drawn me back to these stories.
Oh yeah, man.
And then
it happens everywhere though, right? Like, it's the same thing in film and in video games when we hear about all this shit with, like, you know, what is it, Bobby Kotick, the one that needs to get the hell out by the end of this week, right?
Yep. And good. And I don't feel bad for saying that he ruined Moneyball for me anymore.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, the idea being that does that mean that we never touch like World of Warcraft again or anything like that? Like, who knows? I mean, as somebody that doesn't in the first place, like that's a pretty easy decision for me to make. But I know that there are people out there that still dedicate a lot of their time to that sort of stuff. I mean, does it affect anybody out there that had those online weddings 15 years ago, right? And remember when that was huge, like people meeting in World of Warcraft, entire relationships forming, and then eventually there was actually a couple that got married in World of Warcraft. Like, and the idea being like, does that alter those memories for those people in some way? Like, I hope not, because this guy was so far removed from that stuff for them that like it's not worth like tainting like something that important, right?
I
But
mean,
man, yeah,
I've been
it's
dealing
just
with
weird.
that same thought regarding like Ubisoft and the fact that I played the demo of Phoenix, like whatever Rising, and we play
Hmm.
Uno all the time. But
Hmm.
like Yves Rameau, who is the Bobby Kotick of Ubisoft, is guilty of the exact same crimes, and it was brought to light like a year before the stuff was brought to light about Bobby Kotick,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he still has his job, and nothing has really changed about the climate of the sexual abuse and oppression going on in Ubisoft offices. So
right.
like, and I just haven't bought a Ubisoft game since that happened. Like, that's just the fact. The last one I got was the Scott Pilgrim stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I try and do that stuff too. Again, it's
Yeah,
pretty easy when it's like I don't have much money and I
I'm
don't
not
know what games
playing
I want to buy
Assassin's
anyway. So,
Creed and
but
Far
like, right,
Cry.
exactly.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I mean, and that Far Cry, ugh, is like Far Cry 4. I had an amazing time with, but everything after Far Cry 4 has been a far cry from Far Cry 4.
La la la
La la
la
la
la.
la.
Yeah, well, and it's also easy there because in addition to the stuff about Ubisoft, you also have a lot of the critiques about that series, kind of just really leaning into the the like poor nation with an evil leader, and then the terrible kind of stereotypes that come along with that story. They, rather than try and finesse them in any way, they just feel like they've just gone whole hog into them. With six, I don't know. There is that question of ethics, right? Like ethical consumerism that comes into play with all this stuff. This isn't the first time that we've ever talked about this stuff. It's just that I think that, as I said before, with everything that's gone on the last couple of years, I I feel like that conversation's being had, but it's a much emptier one on a regular basis because we got more important shit to worry about. And it shouldn't be. I'm not saying like, hey, like let's not worry about this because we've got bigger fish to fry. Like, no, we should still focus on this. We can do two things. We're adults.
We can do more than two things. I mean, everybody thinks that they can text and drive. I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I tried for that joke, but
But yeah, and the same thing is in some of the film stuff. Like, yeah, there's just some things that are going to be coming down the pike in the next couple of years that are going to be weird
there are
for a
some
lot of
things that have
reasons.
already come down the pike that are weird. And I want to talk about it. I want to breach it. You told me to remind you about it, and you set us up so perfectly for it. Spoilers for Ghostbusters Afterlife is how
For
I'm
one
going to
moment,
title this.
we're not going to talk too much
We're not.
about it
I
because we
haven't
haven't
seen the
seen it. I
movie.
haven't seen it. Yeah, yeah,
Neither
yeah,
of us have
exactly.
seen the movie.
Right.
But thanks to Hasbro, good old Rhode Island born and bred Hasbro, a moment from the film was spoiled 2 days before the film released.
Yeah,
Um,
in good old collectible toy fashion,
yeah,
a pretty big reveal was suddenly just available to anyone that walked down the action figure aisle of your local Target. Yeah, man, there's a ghost of Egon in this movie.
yeah, and I gotta tell you, I was never like rushing to the cinema to see this film. This was not a film that like, oh my god, I have to see it. And I don't know why that is because I'm Devon Decker. There is a whole group of people who know me as a Ghostbusters fan, right? Like that'd
Yeah.
probably be how they describe me. And Afterlife was never one that really captured me. And really, because I had this discussion with someone, the marketing behind the film of like, this is a movie for the fans. And it's like, that's what all sequels are for, right?
Yeah.
Sequels are not targeting the people who hated the first movie.
We
They're,
fixed it, we swear. Well, that was kind of their attitude, actually.
yeah, well, I mean, yeah, but that,
They had
right,
their
but
cake
that's,
and ate it too on this one.
that's a good point. But I'm saying that, like, if you didn't like Superman in 1978, Richard Donner wasn't like, oh man, I had this conversation with this guy at Sardi's, and he's like, I hated the movie. You need to make it more about Earth. So then he writes Superman 2, and it's all on Earth, and all the Krypton stuff is removed from it. It's not because Richard Donner wants to make that guy happy. He wants to feed the already existing fan base, right? Yeah. That's sort of why sequels are made, because, oh my God, we can milk a few more dollars from the sweet, sweet udder of this franchise.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, there's something to be said about the idea of like expanding the universe and focusing on the stories and all that sort of stuff. And that's all great conversation. But let's be honest, at the end of the day, the reason that Ghostbusters 2 gets made is because Ghostbusters 1 did gangbusters. So there's this idea that like, yeah, with this one, like the ways in which they marketed it as being like this is the one for the quote unquote true fans. That's where that statement always got me. Is it was just like, hey man, like there's a number of people out there that enjoyed Ghostbusters and liked 2016, and there's a number of people out there that in enjoying 2016 went back and watched old Ghostbusters and liked them. Like you've completely eliminated that entire part of the audience with that one statement. You like, why would you do that?
Yeah. I mean, you know what would have got me to go see Ghostbusters Afterlife in spite of everything that's going on? The sequel for the fans of Evolution. Sejan and I would have probably figured out a way to see it together.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just I don't know.
But yeah, so there is this idea that that this movie is being geared towards you know, people that enjoy and love the series and love the people involved in this series, which is why I'm just so weirdly. I guess I shouldn't say I'm offended. I mean, I am offended. I'm offended that they did this thing. By putting a holographic version of Harold Ramis into this movie at a point where he is not, you know, it's not like, oh, he's alive, but he's now 78 years old or 80 years old, and he doesn't look like Egon would look in our. So can we like, do we have your permission, Mr. Ramis, to put a younger looking version of you in this movie? Like that is a conversation that happens. Like we see that all the time with people getting aged down or cleaned up and things like that, and that's a whole other conversation. This is a person that is no longer around to give their okay to be used in this way to make this movie, and that means that like they're being moved around on screen, for lack of a better term. They are being puppeted around on screen so that you can just completely just milk this audience for all it's worth of like, hey, remember this guy too? Yeah, you didn't even think we'd be able to get him in here, did you? And like it's such a weird line. Because we did talk when we talked about 2016, the idea that all the Ghostbusters are in it, and in order to honor Ramis, they put a statue of him in like the background of one scene, like through a door, right? And so like there is this idea that, well, they did it too, but not like this. This is horrific to me. Like it's the same conversations we had about when they did like the Tupac one, or there were jokes about there possibly being a Michael Jackson one lately. I think at the Grammys last year or something, and people pointed out like that's horrendous, that is horrifying, and no, you should not do that. But then yet here we are, where this thing is happening in this movie, and this is the first I heard about it was you talking to me about this toy.
Yeah. It well, because neither of us were in any hurry to see it. I had seen some stuff on Twitter that I had written off as a joke. Right? Like someone's like, man, it was so great when Egon was there busting ghosts as a ghost alongside his buddies. And I'm like, that's a solid Twitter joke. And then come to find out, no, that happens. That happens in this movie. Egon shows up to fight ghosts as a ghost alongside his friends. And it's a bridge too far for me. It's a bridge too far in the real world sense and everything that you're talking about, where like we're recreating the image of a person who has passed away, who is deceased, and without his consent because of that, right? I mean, they say that they got the consent of his family, but no, that really kind of like I'm gonna say it right here. You do not have my permission to recreate me as a hologram if I pass away.
But you better believe if somebody came and asked me, I'd be like, oh, yeah, no, he'd love it.
Yeah, right, because Sejan gets that money. Harold Ramis' family probably gets some money from that. Yeah. Oh, my God, I'm just feeling gross about saying it. Like,
but it's not just about that. They may honestly believe that he would be okay with it, and it might mean something to them that he's in this movie, but that doesn't matter because they're not him. like his autonomy is just completely gone now. Like this idea that we could, and the reason that I'm even getting this far down this rabbit hole about this is because this is not a new conversation. We have talked about the idea of editing film and making people that or have maybe passed on and don't have the ability to reshoot scenes or redo things, like manipulating them since like the 80s and 90s. Ted Turner used to talk about doing this all the time, fixing movies. We made jokes about it, like, but then like, you know, we thought it was horrendous and you shouldn't do it. We pointed out that like you're touching on something that is deeply just like upsettingly problematic and gross by doing this sort of stuff. And I thought we had settled this. Even when the hologram thing came back around and it reared its head for just one ugly moment where people were like, well, what if we try it now that we can do 3D rendering? No, that's not the point. It was never about the fact that it was a movie versus real life. It was about the point that like this person is not here. We cannot know for sure what their feelings would be on doing this thing with their body.
Yeah,
with
and doing this thing with their image and what that image stands for, right?
Right.
Like, I don't. It weirds me out on that level. It weirds me out that I just had to say the phrase, I do not consent to a holographic representation of me being used in a film. Mm-hmm. Like that I would even need to put those words together. I mean, there's that movie Simone with Al Pacino that I think we should all go back and watch because, dear God, that was a satirical look at what we're talking about right now that is terrifying. And BoJack Horseman has covered it. But what also bothers me, right, and I guess I can say as a true fan of Ghostbusters, right, the storyline thing that, like, Egon Spengler, when he passes on, doesn't get to rest, that he is kept here as a ghost, like that makes me so sad that that's his life.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing is you and I have talked about, and we'd have to probably sit down and actually analyze each individual ghost in these movies. But like the ways in which a ghost exists in the Ghostbusters universe is not necessarily like a 1-to-1, right? It's not like human dies, then they become a ghost and they are still that human. You get like all sorts of weird effects, everything from like Slimer to the Scolari brothers to the librarian to the right. Mm-hmm. Like there's different levels at which people become ghosts, but even then they're never quite the humans they were when they were alive. So like, I don't know, in a weird way I kind of almost wish they had like Jim Henson'd up like a hand puppet to maybe be him, and I'd be okay with that, you know, because it's not Harold Ramis being used in a weird way, like it's the character, and that I can divorce, like that I can get behind. But the idea that they go out of their way to use his actual physical likeness is bizarre to a point that kind of sends shivers down my spine.
Yeah, it just makes me sad. And also, just the last thing, because, and this is another thing, apparently they are fighting Gozer. Gozer is the big bad of this movie.
Yeah.
And what bothers me about that, and again, I don't know, I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know it, is it feels like it makes the 2009 video game completely non-canonical.
Yeah.
If Gozer is the enemy again. Because,
which for a long time, for a lot of quote-unquote true fans, that was the canonical third movie, right, was that game. So, like, the ways in which it's negating a pretty big piece of Ghostbusters history is pretty rad, for the fans.
Yeah. I just don't know. Like, it's all over how I feel about this thing. This thing that, like, I was probably going to check out when I had the chance, but now it is so low on my queue in terms of, like, I mean, I don't doubt that I will someday see it and that someday we will give it a proper discussion on this. But right now, I have become so disenfranchised knowing that, like, I think what actually bothers me more is knowing that they did it, but then seeing all of the conversation on social media about how this was the perfect Ghostbusters movie. This was the film I always wanted to see. And like,
all you ever wanted was for these artists to just get up in front of you and just do what you wanted them to do, not actually see them do anything creatively different in any way, is what you mean.
But also, like, it includes stuff like this that, like, just the thought of it makes my skin crawl.
Yeah. Well, like, so turning the conversation a little bit away from Ghostbusters.
Yes, please
I don't want to just sit here and just rag on Ghostbusters.
A movie we haven't even seen, but yes.
Right. So now we're staring down the barrel of Sony now having not only the technology, but the balls to actually go forward with just digitally inserting actors into movies, right? And I would not be too concerned right away because there's not too much that I think that like I don't think something like this could happen in a romantic comedy yet, right? And unless that romantic comedy, I guess, is somehow like based on this idea of digital insertion. But that's too meta, I think, for this conversation. What I mean is we're not going to see like the next like Valentine's Day and they're going to like dig up the corpse of never
Gary
mind, I'm not
Marshall
gonna,
to direct
I was
it.
gonna yeah, I was gonna go down and I just realized I don't want to be as bad as everybody else that seems okay with this. But this idea being that like that there are some movies coming where this might be a huge boon to them and actually might already be like in the works, not least of which is definitely the new Spider-Man movie. The idea that in this next Spider-Man movie they might not even give them lines, but like James Franco could just be in a scene, right? Like, and just like they could go back and they could just anybody that they want to digitally insert into these movies, like any like who played Aunt May with Andrew Garfield, Sally Fields,
Sally
right?
Field,
Like
yeah.
they could just they could put her in the background of something without like I'm not even saying that they have to go
I,
out of their way
I
to
mean,
create full
the original
storylines.
Aunt May. I mean, Tobey Maguire's Aunt May has passed away. Rose, I can't think of her last name.
McGinnis, maybe
I like
oh, that's not
if it's like close to McGowan, and that's why all I can think of is Rose McGowan. Like it's Rose M. I'm pretty sure, but yeah, I mean, if one of these things is going to be that other Spider-Men are showing up, right, and we're seeing through them, there's nothing that says that they wouldn't do it because we've already seen that Sony has done it with
well,
Ghostbusters.
and let's get really gross with this, right? There's a lot of benefits to this. On the one hand, they don't have to go out of their way to keep like tight lips on somebody that is on set for one day, right? Because they throw their character in the background. Yes, they get permission to be in it, so that person can't talk about that. But that's a lot better than them also having pages of script in their hands and being on set listening to other people working on other scenes and stuff, right? So it helps them in that regard. It also means that they can have their like Avengers style moment at the end, Avengers Endgame style moment at the end, where all of the different, just every universe just suddenly appears, right? And you don't need lines for that. It's just the idea of having them on screen. It gives them permission, and again, this ability to just the balls to actually do this, to actually go out of their way. And that's just this one, right? Like there will be other Sony sci-fi style films where like the idea of digitally inserting people into it might not be the weirdest thing. And then eventually we will get to those romantic comedies.
Yeah, when Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan are doing their fifth movie together, but it's just what they look like in You've Got Mail.
Hmm.
Which I guess a weird thing, right? As I stare at Elmer Fudd dressed as a basketball player, that's kind of what Space Jam: A New Legacy was about.
Exactly. Yes, it is exactly that. That idea that like they could just take anybody's body and do anything with it, like that's part of what my concept with like this isn't the first time we've talked about this, right?
Right.
Like my feeling that like I thought it was settled that this was an utterly absurd, ridiculous thing that only the villain would do, right?
Yep. But I mean, you bring up Bobby Kotick earlier. What we're learning is that corporations are the villain, right?
Hmm.
And not so much learning, but having confirmed for us is
I
that
mean, did we
yeah.
talk about Elliot Page recently and the problems that they had when they did Beyond Two Souls? Wasn't that the one where they had their body scanned to be in that game, and then there's a scene in that game in which the character is in the shower, and I feel like we talked about this recently. Maybe
We
not
haven't
on it.
talked. I mean, it's something that's always been, but I don't think we've ever actually brought it up on the show.
Yeah.
That
And then
like
there's so that character has been inserted into a shower scene, and so there is a naked model of Elliot Page's body in this game, and like it is data mined for sure, and there's guys like throwing it up on Reddit and shit like that, and they ended up suing the company that made that game because it was never made clear to them that there was the possibility of something like this happening, right? That because they scanned their body to be like a full model for this game, that people would then manipulate it in a way that they had no control over. And I'm sure that there was some level of understanding because they signed up to be in a video game, but it is it's one thing to be like to have a script in front of you of like what your character is going to do. It's another thing for the director to, when you're no longer on the project, turn around and say, yeah, we're gonna completely like tweak this here and tweak that there. Also, let's get a full mock-up of a naked body for this one. What? Like if that wasn't made clear, and I think that they won, if I remember correctly,
I'm
if
fairly
that
certain
wasn't
that
made clear
yeah.
to Elliot Page at the time, then that's not cool, right? And so so like that's the other thing, is there's literally legal precedent for this, as we know that video games have tried this, and it won't take too much effort to apply that to film, I guess, as well.
Is that a
So hopefully,
Sony exclusive game too? Like, is
I
that
think
is
it
that
might be.
Sony another like just wrapped up in this whole thing? Like,
Yeah, pretty sure that the Beyond Two Souls is one of those like LA Noir style like choose your own adventure stories, and they were like so happy to get a bunch of like actors scanned in for it, and I do believe it is a Sony exclusive. Yeah.
all right, so I mean, it really just looks like Sony is the ones who've been dipping their toe into this, and then eventually it's going to come to a head. And really, looking at Harold Ramis being recreated after he passed away, I mean, it's been like 6 years, right? It's not like he passed away. I mean, because you could also talk about something like Fast and Furious 7, or it's just Furious 7, that's the name of it, where Paul Walker passes away during filming, and they use his brothers as stand-in and then digitally recreate his face for certain things.
Yep.
Like,
Do the same thing with Aaliyah back in Queen of the Damned.
yeah,
This has happened. This has been coming down the pike for a while in film, and it was always questioned in those moments too, though, right?
right.
Because I remember was when it happened with Aaliyah, there were a lot of people being like, why this seems gross that you're even putting the movie out." And then with Fast 7, there was a lot of conversation about how this was for the fans and he would want it that way, and there's definitely a lot of evidence to point to that for sure. It's not that I think that Paul Walker would be like, "No, like if I'm gone, I'm gone. You don't get to see me anymore." Like quite the opposite. But it doesn't matter what I feel, right? Like at the end of the day, the dude should still have some say in this sort of thing. And I remember that conversation at the time of people being like, it feels a little gross that they're still doing this. But it was kind of overshadowed by the way that whole franchise is always overshadowed by the fans. So this time around, the fact that I didn't hear any conversation whatsoever about it, it is a full-on recreation of a person that has been gone for years. And after all of that, it is like, from what I understand, it's not a done deal. Like they could do this to all four of them in the next one.
Yeah, no, it's and that's all they really want, right? All they really want to be able to do is to recreate Peter Venkman digitally and not have to deal with Bill Murray. I mean, if they could have done this for Ghostbusters 3 in the 90s, they would have.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a deeply uncomfortable conversation that I wasn't prepared to have. And specifically, picture of Transformers from a friend saying like, "Oh my God, the Transformers are stocked at Target," and then seeing in the corner of that picture Egon's ghost.
Oh,
like,
man.
the hell is that?
Yeah.
And then doing the research and finding that there were solicitations released 2 days before the film came out.
Man.
And then they did a Hasbro Fan First Friday the day that it came out. And like they put a whole like, there are spoilers for the movie. But sometimes you hear that there are spoilers for the movie and you think, oh, what, you're going to show us that Paul Rudd has a character and maybe we see a costume that he wears later on in the film? No, full on Ghost Egon.
Just Ghost Egon. Yeah, it's just such a weird, man. It's weird all around because it's all of the stuff that we hear people normally complain about in films in sequels, like the way that it's like it's pandering to fans, the ways in which it's abusing the original franchise, the ways in which it's pushing the limits in good taste when it comes to the ways that it treats like its older artists, like all of that stuff that we normally hear movies just get ripped to shreds about, and often pre-critiqued in a lot of ways, like unfortunately like pre-critiqued to the point where sometimes it buries a movie that would otherwise have been a fun time. And we talk about that, but like it's just I guess part of the thing that's so weird to me this time around is just the fact that everybody just seems to be okay with it, or at least not talking about it. And that's the other side of all of this is like it's also really weird because I just haven't heard anybody say a thing about this movie like in real life. Everything has been an online conversation, and that's just wild to me because I have people that still can't stop talking about like Suicide Squad and things like that. Like
Do you mean
the
the
fact
Suicide Squad? I want to make sure that we're talking
yes,
about the
yes.
right film.
I mean both because of that conversation,
Yeah.
but yeah, like or even further back, like talking about like the Spider-Man from last year and what that might mean for Spider-Man this year and all this stuff. Like we just like, all of the conversations that I hear all the time about this this kind of genre of film, I guess, is like it's ominously quiet on this one particular movie. And when you hear that they do stuff like this in it, it's just like, what is happening? Like, what is happening? Are the Ghostbusters fans okay? Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to jump off here. I'm going to try to spiral from something that we mentioned to talk about what actually I think worked out pretty well. But again, that's just one guy's opinion on the internet. And that's Spider-Man coming to Marvel's Avengers, right? Another hotly debated, very much hated thing is that the Spider-Man character was going to be a PlayStation exclusive
okay,
for
video
this
games. We're talking video
multi-platform
games,
game.
people. I
Yeah,
know he said that as if we would all just understand he meant the video game and not the movies or the comics or.
right. No, but the Marvel's Avengers video game that released last September, maybe October. I think it was October.
Yeah,
Released
the
last
game that wouldn't
October.
die, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
the game that won't die, the game that is still going, to
Hmm.
the fact that right alongside Spider-Man, they completely rebalanced and changed the game. To the fact that they added loot boxes. You know, they said that we'll never put in anything that you have to pay for, and then they added loot boxes
That you can pay
that
for.
you can. Well, it's weird because it's using in-game currency only, and I don't know if there's a way to translate the pay-for currency units. They're not units. I don't know what they're called. They're little blue discs. They're
I
represented as
mean,
that in game.
there is at least one because you can get like a starter pack that dumps a bunch of currency on you and a couple of costumes when you get the game. Like that is something that is
Right,
available.
but
It's
I
like
think
a
that
like a Hulk
currency is the
starter
blue
pack.
currency, not the green currency. The other thing is that we talked about it briefly that they were going to consolidate all of the various currencies that
Mhm.
live service games sort of live on, and
Right.
they've done that, and it's completely changed how you update gear, and I don't think I'm happy about it. I'm going to be completely honest about it. Sejin just fell down.
Sorry. No,
It's
yeah, you said that. You said that they updated it to change the way that you update gear, and I started to like face palm, but I had something in my hand.
oh, okay.
I
Well,
was
I
just
hope
like,
you're
oh yeah, right.
okay. Yeah.
Face palming with my mouse in my hand. That's really smart. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about the whole loot box system. But Spider-Man is what I want to talk about today. Spider-Man is what I want to address. But primarily because the talk about the character coming to the game was that there was going to be no story content, that it was just going to be the character being introduced.
Well, and
And
again, I heard that it's a little bit different than that. That there was going to be story content, but it was going to be a la like Destiny style, like pick up a card in the universe and then go online and read it type of thing. So that there would be stuff available, but it would not be what's the word I'm looking for? There wouldn't be cutscenes. There wouldn't be like in-game cutscenes. It would just be like go dig into the story on your own time type of situation. Is that not correct?
lies and slander, Sejin. Lies and slander. Spider-Man very much has his own story that is going on. That opens with a unique cinematic of him coming to the Chimera and talking to the Avengers about needing their help with something that's going on in the neighborhood.
You know
And
who did a really big disservice to this then is Crystal Dynamics coming out and saying that none of this stuff was going to be in it.
so, I mean, what they tried to do was have their cake and eat it too. And by saying that, like, the story content doesn't affect the overarching world of Avengers. And that so far seems pretty true. I mean, the stuff you have to do to unlock the story beats are kind of just like stupid little things. Like I had to web up 75 enemies in order to activate an interactive cutscene with Liz Allen. And Liz Allen wasn't in the Avengers game prior to Spider-Man being added to the game. But like Liz Allen is apparently a scientist for S.H.I.E.L.D. and a member of the Resistance. And I had to go, like, the mission was talk to Liz Allen. And I'm like, the fuck? What are you talking about? Talk to Liz Allen.
Yeah.
So, and then I go talk to Liz Allen, and she's like, "Hi, Spider-Man. We've had some problem with the Raxton Corporation." And I'm like, "Oh, a corporation that we haven't heard mentioned in universe yet, right? Like, I know who Raxton is from comics and from movies, but it's never existed in the world of Marvel's Avengers video game." So, like, while I understand that doesn't affect, like, if you're playing on Xbox, I don't think that the Raxton mission that I'm currently on, which is to use my wreckage ability as Spider-Man 15 times, which is when Spider-Man has enough intrinsic energy. These are the buzzwords, by the way, people. These are the words that are used by Marvel's Avengers game to just...
It sounds like a software company that doesn't have a product trying really hard to get bought by a company that does, so that they can then, like, golden parachute out.
Exactly.
Like that's what this sounds like, is they just are trying to sell this so hard, and it is just an empty suitcase.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, so currently I'm working on that. I have 8 of the 15 wreckage activations, and when I do more, it will give me more story. And one of the rewards each time is similar to that Destiny stuff, right? Where you get an audio file where you can have the story read to you, what's going on and what it means. But then the actual cutscene with Spider-Man and the Avengers, where him and Kamala, like, have a moment about what it's like to be a teenager and a superhero.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's story, guys. I know that you might think that it's not, like, it doesn't affect how other people who don't get to play it will play the story, but it doesn't mean it's not story content, right? It's is weird. And then, like, to add in Spider-Man characters who I can interact with, not as Spider-Man, right? Like, I can go talk to Liz Allen right now as Hawkeye or Black Widow or Captain America.
Does she have unique dialogue?
I mean, I haven't. I just wanted to see if she was there and if she had the prompt.
Yeah. Well, so, but, like, this is so egregious. It stinks. Like, it smells to me like they purposely muddied the waters on this release so that, like, the conversation was going to be, you're not getting as much as you want, and then you got it and you were like, this is more than I expected. And that's a really gross way to, like, make sure your product does not, like, fall on its face, but it feels like that's what they purposely did. Because I, like, no joke, like the reason that I was under this impression, right, is because a bunch of people were like, there was a bunch of critics
articles, man. Like,
right, there were a bunch of critics out there that got early release versions of Spider-Man so that they could see how he played, so that they could write up about it. And part of their thing was talking about, like, we've been told that, like, you're not going to get too much of this, there's not going to be any of that, and so we all just took it as that's just not going to be in there. And everybody was a little miffed and blah, blah, blah. World moves on. Then it comes out and it does have some of this stuff. And suddenly it doesn't sound so bad. It still doesn't sound great. But that's now lost, right? Because they purposely got out ahead of it and basically lied to everybody.
Yeah, I don't want to be like exactly, but exactly. That's exactly what they did.
Yeah, gross.
Yeah,
I mean, that's cool. Like, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, what is his moveset like? Does he move like anybody else, or does he feel pretty unique?
You know, the Spider-Man game that came out on PlayStation in 2018 is the exact same moveset. Like,
okay.
I said to Dale that he feels like Spider-Man, and she's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, because he doesn't. He doesn't have the same fluidity of motion that he did in the game that was dedicated to him. But I'm like, no. It's the fact that if I hold the triangle button on the ground, he grabs somebody and, like, disarms them. He'll take their weapon away, or, like, they'll do it. But if I hold the triangle button in the air, he'll actually web them up to his level to start an air combo. Is the fact that, like, all of the things that I did as Spider-Man in that game, it's the same button presses to have them done in this game.
That's pretty. I mean, that sounds kind of smart. I mean, that can get a little weird too, gross as well. But because they did not make that game, but that's okay. That's a different.
Well,
That's not a.
but
That's a
Sony
conversation for people
did,
different
and
than us.
Sony licensed them the character
Right.
exclusively for their system. So what they're saying is, you can take the character that we've built and recreate him.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's exactly what it is.
But as you pointed out, they could not do the full 1-to-1 because Insomniac just fucking the ways in which they make the Spider-Man like flow and move in that game is untouchable. Like they were definitely not going to get it in this game.
Yeah.
I
mean,
how's Webbing around with him in the woods? I need to know.
It's
Does he?
awkward as anything because like you see him like reaching and it will go out to like I haven't gone to the tundra with him. I want to do that. But like you see him go and like shoot and I'm like, "Oh, am I going to hit that tree?" Oh, I hit that tree. But like they did a really good job of trying to make it seem like logical how he's swinging. But
Okay.
and then that's the worst part cuz the swinging in the 2018 game is the second best to what we had in the Spider-Man 2 game that came out on the Xbox, right? The original Xbox. And that was revolutionary stuff. But this one, you have to jump, hit the R2 button, and then you have to let go of everything and do it again if you want to continually swing. There's no way to like just hold the button and keep swinging. You have to do the button input every time. And it does not feel good at all. Like I do more vertical travel in the air as Hawkeye or Black Widow than I am doing as Spider-Man.
Uh-oh. Nope. That shouldn't be that.
That should not be the case, right? But yeah. And it was actually, I was playing online. So as part of the whole loot box thing, you have to do a mission online with a living human each day to get a voucher to get one of the loot boxes for free. That's just how they did it. Or you can buy a loot box for 500 in-game currency. And again, I don't know if you can translate the blue coins into green coins. I haven't found a way to do that yet. Okay. So it looks like you have to play the game to earn these, but whatever. I'm sure there's some way that they can scam you out of your money, right? And that's
right. No, they'll do it the way that these other games do it, and eventually you'll see for like $10 you can just buy up a bunch of the different currencies. You'll just drop it, but they could also hide it and stuff, and that's part of the issue is that they'll hide it behind like, hey, here's a costume pack. Also, it comes with 500 of each currency, but like then people are suddenly buying that not for the costume packs but for the currency, right? And like it becomes it'll sneak its way in, just like the loot box stuff did. They told us they wouldn't do this, and here we are a year later. So I guarantee you, a year from now, there is a pay to win style path in this game. It may not be obvious and it may not be easy, like it may be convoluted, but it will exist.
Yeah, I mean, there's already the stuff that exists online in order to like fast level your characters and things like that. Those exist, so there's got to be ways that they can stop those from existing and then monetize them. Mm-hmm. That's what they got to be working on, which is why you don't hear from me when it's a 4X experience weekend, because I want to take advantage before it's taken away from me.
Yeah.
That's just me talking. But yeah, so what were we talking about? Spider-Man's flimming around and all that stuff. The stuff. So I was playing online with a Spider-Man, because everybody's playing as Spider-Man, right? There's still no cross-play because of the Spider-Man thing, but you go online now, you're just in a room of Spider-Man, and that's been disappointing to me because alongside it, and I kind of commend them for doing this. I thought it would be when it was over, but they went with the third week, probably to make it feel like the other consoles were not getting screwed over by not getting Spider-Man. They started the Hawkeye event as the tie-in to the TV show. Mm-hmm. And the Hawkeye tie-in event is bullshit. Hi, Devon Decker here. Just going to be honest about the fact
that they've had, and this is the second time you've talked about it being bullshit.
That is bullshit. And the reason why it's bullshit is what you need to do as both Hawkeye and Kate is complete their unique story that was introduced in the game. Kate's was introduced in December of last year, and Hawkeye's was introduced in April of this year, right? So things that have already been introduced and completable, you need to complete both of them. And it's retroactive, right? So it's not like I had to play through them again. But like that's part of the tie-in is old content. You have to get both of them up to level 50. Sorry. And then you have to talk to the dog. You have to talk to Lucky the pizza dog. And then you complete it and you unlock a unique nameplate that is just the title of the show.
Nice.
So, like, it's not really so much as a tie-in as, hey, you get this unique nameplate if you play as the Hawkeye characters to an absurd level. And it's glitched. That's my favorite thing. My Hawkeye is level 40, but my Kate is level 52. And when I loaded in Kate, it just unlocked it for me. And I'm like, no, that's whatever. I'm not going to complain, right? But I'm playing as Hawkeye with Spider-Man, and as Hawkeye in one of the missions, I'm swinging around the arena to get to the objectives as Spider-Man is running behind me, and I'm like, what is the point of having, like, why am I being Spider-Man as Hawkeye?
Yeah, why didn't they give him a glider? I mean,
I don't know, man. It would be excellent. It's been weird days with Marvel Avengers, but I did want to report on the fact that no story content was a lie.
Well, and from their mouths, I take no responsibility for spreading that lie, because when Crystal Dynamics came out and basically pre-apologized, like they wanted to front load the release with an apology that there was not going to be as much stuff in it as we would have liked, and then it's just weird.
Yeah, no, I wasn't blaming you. And after you said it, I went out to read it to see what you were talking about, and I'm like, oh, Crystal Dynamics, everybody was excited to play as Spider-Man in this game, and you just kind of shot yourself in the foot, right? Yeah. Let us find that out organically.
Let's all be mad together. Oh man, yeah. It's man, video games getting real weird. It's that time of the year where everybody's freaking out about what to play for Game of the Year stuff and things like that. And there's a couple of things I'm still hoping to get my hands on. A couple of days from now, Loop Hero is coming out to the Switch, and I don't know if I talked about this on the show or not, but Loop Hero is one of those ones that blew up on Twitch about 6 months ago, maybe 7
I remember when it came out, and even I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna get Loop Hero.
I know, yeah. And but my only thing is that I'm not a PC gamer. I have a PC that can handle things like Stardew, but if I try and go any further than that, it my thing chugs and it's never a fun experience. And sometimes even the dumbest games don't run as well as they should. Bloody Trapland, looking at you. But anyway, so I try to kind of avoid the whole PC culture thing, because I just don't have the money or the wherewithal to just be consistently updating my thing and bitching online about how there's never an end to it. So I've just been waiting for it to come to console, because I knew it had to eventually. And lo and behold, there was an announcement from Nintendo a week ago being like, hey, 2 weeks, Loop Hero, ta-da. I was like, hell yeah. So that's probably going to become my end of the year play. I was kind of hoping that there'd be some news on the new one that's going around, Inscription, coming to consoles. Anyone that has not seen that, it's a card game, but there's also an escape room element to it, and I don't really want to say much more than that, because it's that kind of game that you're supposed to discover for yourself. And so a lot of guys have been playing it online, though, so if you really want to go see, you can find a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube. But it looks really fun, but again, it's PC exclusive right now, and it's one guy making it. Devolver Digital gave him a bunch of backing to get it finished, and it looks gorgeous. But if he can figure out a way to get it onto consoles, I'm hoping by February of next year I can be playing that game. Because otherwise that would definitely be on deck for me to be playing right now. But I don't know. I finished up Super Mario RPG. I just haven't been able to get into anything too crazy on PS4 in the last few weeks. I created I had an Armageddon in my on my island in Animal Crossing. I just completely nuked the whole thing.
Jesus.
Yep, nuked a nuke. No, I wanted to restart with the new update that came out. There's a lot of stuff that I had kind of I had completed, for lack of a better word, some of everything I really kind of wanted to with Animal Crossing back in the day, and they've been adding stuff slowly, and there's a bunch of new stuff. But knowing how I felt after completing a bunch of stuff and being kind of bummed that I now had this thing and not much to do with it, I thought you know, it'd be actually really kind of the best way to go about this is just start fresh, and then I just have would double the content that I'd have because I hadn't played it for a while. So restarting would be cool. Plus, with the new stuff, it would feel like it'd be kind of moving along. There's a whole bunch of new ways to like create like vacation resort islands and shops and things like that. So like I'm basically playing it like it's a new game now. And I just started this week, so you know how Animal Crossing is. I've only been able to go in for about 30 minutes a day to do anything, but that's pretty cool. That's been going pretty rad.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that you're finding ways to be excited and play games. Me, I think I'm going to go through Resident Evil 8 one more time so that I can delete it off my console until I get the itch to play all the Resident Evil games that I own. Probably if they ever release that remake of 4 that they keep threatening us with.
They did. I mean, like they did just put a 4 remake out for the Oculus.
For the Oculus, but they're saying that there's going to
Yeah.
be one in the style of remake 2 and 3. And that interests me that more than the Oculus one. For all intents, is just a virtual reality version of the game that already existed.
Yes, yes.
So
Pretty good from what I understand.
yeah,
A lot of really, really good moves in turning it into a 3D space, but you're right. Like it is just basically the game that you've already played. You just, you know, you move around it funny.
yeah. So if there's any truth to the fact that they're actually going to do a remake in the style of like the Nemesis remake, which is just Resident Evil 3, there's no Nemesis. That's how they're distinguished in the community. I would be excited for that because what really sold me on those games and what kind of brought me into Resident Evil was the movement tech. And I'm still going to be a complainer and a baby about the movement tech in Resident Evil 4. I don't like tank controls at all.
Dude, you're not alone. It's part of the reason why the remakes have done as well as they've done. Is a bunch of people that always wanted to play those games but couldn't stand them, that like couldn't stand the control aspects, and finally got to play the game the way that they wanted. Here's the thing: doing 4 in that style is basically printing money, and so you'd think that obviously that must mean they're working on it. But I think quite the opposite. The fact that they're leaving money on the table is like a tried and true old school Resident Evil like way of business.
I mean, you say I don't know. It feels like they realized with 7 that there was still a market for the series.
Hey man, I hope you're right. I don't say that as somebody that wants it to be that way. I just, as somebody that has many a times gotten his hopes up about a Resident Evil thing and has been let down, including this very weekend.
Oh, did you see the movie?
I did, and I did enjoy it. I don't want to like get into it until
That's what I want to see.
Nope.
I'm more excited for Resident Evil movie, a series that I just got interested in 2 years ago, than I am for Ghostbusters Afterlife, which really says something about Devon Decker. And like,
yeah.
and half of that story is just going to be Resident Evil 2, a story which I could tell you right now as an oral history. So.
Yeah, so just, you know, go and enjoy yourself. It is a fun time. I think there's a lot of people that are upset that it's not hardcore, but I think the problem is like we let one go hardcore into like what you consider to be like gory action stuff, and we've got 6 of those movies. Like it's okay if this one maybe doesn't do that. I don't know. I really enjoyed it, but the people I were with were real bummers about it. So I don't really
sorry
want
to
to
hear that. I'm excited. I don't know. I'm just excited because the guy from Victorious is playing Leon.
Well, I mean, and McDonough is in it and is amazing. It's got a great cast.
Yeah.
Loja.
But yeah, I was excited. I'm like, oh my god, it's that guy. I can't think of his name, and it's really bothering me. I know it's like Jorge Von or something. I don't even remember his name in real life, or his name on Victorious. Beck is his name from Victorious. He dated Jade, but then also had a crush on Tori. It was weird. It was 90s It was 2000s Nickelodeon weird. Yeah. Because, like, clearly him and Jade were made for each other, but also, like, he was the hot boy. So, like, the main character has to end up with the hot boy. Meanwhile, freaking Ariana Grande is laughing all the way to the bank as the most successful person to come out of the Victorious machine.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, you know, it's that mid 2000s television that we were talking about earlier. We're getting real close to being ripe for like a huge comeback in style. So we'll see.
Yeah, maybe it'll come from us. It will. We're going to talk about it. We'll figure something out. We'll figure out how to break into the world of TV writing. That's Say Report side quest for 2022, right? Sneak preview. What am I saying? What are the words? I have to ask you a serious question, and then I'd like to report on something else I did this week.
Oh, no.
J-Bro was real, right? He was a real person.
That we, like, had in our lives?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why? Did you think he was a figment of your imagination that you like made up at some point?
So I've been real reminiscent lately.
You have a real beautiful mind, Dave.
Thank you. I appreciate it. If he turned out to be just a fictional character that I invented, I don't think I'd be mad about it, but I'd be sad. But okay, so here's the thing. Here's where all of this comes from, and this is not related. This is all the plot of this section of this episode of the Say Report. So I got my start recording and talking over broadcasting. My broadcasting started in 2001 when I joined the local high school radio station. And the radio station, after Dale graduated, right, so 2012, like shuttered its doors. And there was no radio station at Coventry High School anymore. And 2 weeks ago, there was an announcement on Facebook. I don't know why it showed up on my Facebook feed, but it did. That the radio station at Coventry High School is back.
I mean, it showed up because Mr. Zuckerberg knew this would be of interest to us.
And so far, the return of 91.5 WCVY Coventry has been disappointing. I can't sugarcoat it.
High schoolers apart. Let's do it.
No, I don't think I'm ripping high schoolers apart. I think I'm ripping apart the like older men whose photos accompanied the announcement that 91.5 is back. Because, and I'm really going to try not to go negative on this one, but like, it taxes me, right? It taxes me like Kirk does Khan. It
why else
me.
Would we have a show if not to get up here and just completely unload?
You know, an airing of the grievances, right? It's a little early. Yeah. No, so it's back, right? It's back, and it's 24/7. They are broadcasting all the time. Where before, when I was there and Dale was doing it, it only broadcast from 2 to 10 Monday through Friday, right? Mm-hmm. And that makes sense because kids can't be in the radio station during it. But now we live in a world where, like, oh, you can set up a playlist and have it play different like all day, right? The issue is the playlist that they've set up is 5 songs. And they're just on a loop.
The station. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Now I know where we're going with this story. I've honestly been sitting here very quietly letting you dig your own grave. What I thought you were going to be pot shots at like 16-year-olds.
No, so, I would never. Honestly, the spoilers for the end of this story. I would really like to get in there and start advising kids on how to create content so that this can be a 24/7 radio station. Yeah. Like, put together a 2-hour-long playlist, right? If I could get, like, a room of kids who are excited about radio, right? Put together 2 hours worth of music, and not even that, like 90 minutes worth of music, right? Put it together, try to find a theme to fill 90 minutes of music, and then each of those, we'd record interstitials with the student, introducing the songs, talking about the stuff that they would like to do, or whatever they want to on that, right? Understanding it. And then I would just populate like a television channel does it, right? Like, we have Robbie's show that's going to be played Monday at 2:00. And then we'll also play it again Friday at like 5 p.m., right?
Well, right. Creating public, like, creating content that they own is like definitely the first step, right? Yeah. Like, whether that's students or other teachers or anything like that, like on a more ethereal level, the first thing they're doing wrong is they're not creating any content that they get to like do what they want with. I'm sure the reason that they are set up the way that they are is that they paid probably too much money for the rights to those just 5 songs, and that's all they have the right to play.
Well, I mean, if they did that, they did that wrong, because what you do is you pay it to a licensing house.
Exactly.
And then you have access to everything that they touch. ARRI is who you pay that money to. I mean, this is the reason why this is like close to me. Like, I told stories about like local venues that I used to attend earlier as well. Like, it's been a real reminiscent last season of 2021 for Devon Decker. And one of those things, like at AS220, they're like, oh, you can't do cover songs because we haven't paid for the rights to those. And I'm like, you're like a venue. Like, what are you talking about? You didn't pay for the rights to those. Like, a venue for that, like to ARRI, it would pay for itself so that you guys wouldn't have to deal with that.
So, like, let's put our detective caps on for a second. That, like, why the hell do they just have these 5 songs playing on a loop? Like, what does that mean?
I don't think they have any sort of license to them. I got to be completely honest with you.
Okay. Pirate radio.
Well, it's not even pirate radio. I think that, I don't know. I don't understand it. Because the 5 songs play, and there is some content, right? The problem is that it's not well done content, right? Like, it feels like what they did is maybe edit together like this 30 minutes of content, but they didn't like care about fades or anything like that. There's so much dead air in it, right? It seems like something that was kicked off in a hurry so that we can be broadcasting on the band that we've paid for.
Has anyone confirmed that Coventry High School is actually the one airing this? That this is not just some like ghost radio channel that maybe Devon's just like taking in signals from?
I mean, Coventry Public Schools is the one who posted the thing that they're back. And the picture is taken obviously within the high school, but I mean, I guess I could go take a picture in the high school if I wanted to right now, right?
Also, you're assuming that these spectral forces would not have the ability to just, you know, be magical.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I guess I'm writing off magic in the world, but
a world in which I introduced the theory that a ghost might exist. Like,
ghosts might be running a radio station, Devon. That's the thesis that Season is trying to prove here. Yeah, I don't know. It's just the songs, like, so the radio station was initially established in 1978. And then I thought, well, maybe all the songs are from 1978. So it's like kind of a callback to what would have been playing then as sort of an introduction. But no, because there's a song on there from 1965 and then there's a song from 1982. So, like, there goes that theory. I just don't know.
Through the decades, Coventry High School Radio.
Yeah, it's just disappointing. And like, there's not even something like that, like celebrating what it was like when we were established in 1978, putting together what you might hear on that, right? I mean, we live in a playlist society, right? It would just be putting on playlists and then making sure that they do it.
We live in a society, damn it.
I know. It's got it.
No,
but
I look, I get it. The idea being that like it kind of goes back to my question of like, why are they playing these 5 songs? Is what exactly are they achieving here? Because it sure doesn't sound like they're teaching kids to make radio.
Right.
It sounds like they're just recording kids and slapping it on.
They're not even recording kids. It's an adult voice that talks.
Oh man.
So it's this mystery that has vexed me since it's come back. I mean, it's not even like, there's not even any advertising. If they were advertising, I'd get it. So it's not even generating revenue to cover the costs. I mean, one of my favorite things when I was working there is going to local businesses and being like, hey, do you want to buy ad space on our local radio station? You'll get an ad read between 2 and 10. You'll get 2 every day, Monday through Friday. And we would we'd go anywhere. We used to promote a tattoo shop, right? Second Skin Tattoo Shop is one that we used to give like advertising to. And we were very much about like, you know, if you're 16, you need parental consent, or 18 to come in and get a tattoo. Like, they were all about like just spreading the fact that here's a tattoo shop you can go to in the area.
Like little corpo monkeys going around collecting money from all the local businesses, or else you won't talk about them on the air, and that'd be terrible for business, wouldn't it?
Dude, I mean, my favorite one, I will take full credit for this, was negotiating with the Walmart for sponsorship from them. And they were like, well, we can't because we're a corporate entity. And I'm like, yeah, but like, why don't let me talk to corporate about it. And so I sent to corporate a conversation like, really, you just got to give us 2 CDs a month and we will play those CDs for the month, saying that the Coventry Walmart, you know, graciously provided it to it. And then we'll give away one of the CDs as a prize to people, right? We did that my junior year. We started doing that, and we did it through my senior year. And
a couple of boxes of Surge and some Pokemon cards, old man.
All we took were the CDs. But it worked. Like it felt good. And then like going there and being like, hi, I'm from the local radio station. Here's my letter from Walmart corporate saying that I can take 2 CDs of any CDs and that we're going to be doing this whole thing with the radio station. And like, that felt cool to like do that. Yeah. And that's an important part about having a radio station is the marketing to keep the lights on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what this sounds like, man, like for real, is it sounds like someone along the line thought, hey, we used to get money for doing this thing, and then right now we need some money. So let's like get this going. And they turned to somebody else and said, you're responsible to get this going. And that second guy was like, what? It wasn't even my idea. And now they're in charge.
I mean, the fact of the matter
that's how this stuff always happens. Is some higher up thought this will be a great way for us to do this thing, you know, get back with the community, start making a little bit more like extra cash for the kids and stuff like that. And then they handed it off to somebody who has no idea what they're doing. And that guy is now like on the clock to like get certain things done, and none of that includes like advertisement. It is all like, you need to have this radio station airing by this date, you need to have this many songs available by this date, you need to have like this just sounds like some guy that's just like, I don't even want to be here today.
And I think that's the central drive of the whole thing with the radio station, is that I would do it for free right now. Like, I would volunteer to try to make this thing better. Yeah. I would gladly be in there as soon as I'm done with my regular job, helping support this station. I'd be broadcasting at any time where I'm free. All I have to sit in a DJ booth and play songs. I freaking love doing that. I don't know. It vexes me that like this thing that was so big to me, and like it clearly steered me down a path being part of the radio station at my high school. We wouldn't be doing this season,
right?
If I didn't do that when I was 13 years old, right? That's just a fact of the matter. And also, oh my God, I just got nostalgia vertigo. Jesus fucking Christ, that it was 22 years ago. Whoo! Oh, sorry. Jesus. Yeah, it's just one of those situations where like it makes me sad, because I mean, we live in this thing where like so many kids want to be content creators, so I don't think there'd be any like lack of people interested in it. And if you try to approach them on their level, I think you'd be okay.
I mean, there's a bunch of kids out there that are already content creators. Check out which one of them out there have YouTubes, have
exactly.
Spotify.
How would you like to have a two? Like, it's so easy. It could be doing it on its own, and it's with very little effort to get it started. It could be a perpetual motion device of content, and it bums me out that it just, I'm hearing Route 101 and Taste of Honey, the Hawaii 5-0 theme song, Feels So Good by Chuck Mangione, and Pick Up the Pieces by the Average White Band in a loop, not in that order, for like the last 2 weeks. Anytime I put it on, that's what plays.
Again, I'm not even sure this radio station exists.
Right, it might be right, which is then leading me to the question of, did J-Bro exist, right? Because I'm being all reminiscent about my time at the radio station, and it's making me think of a lot of the other adventures that we've been on. Now, you and I, Sejin, we've been on some adventures. We've talked about them here, right?
Uh-huh.
But the type of shit that I was doing with J-Bro was next level, like fucking absurd. Like, how is this happening? How are we getting into the situations we're getting into and then walking out of them completely unscathed? And then also there's the fact that Jay and I joked that he was a genie. Like, that was the joke. Was that he was a genie I found one day until he was granting wishes for me.
You guys were watching too much My Name is Earl at that time.
That was an idea where, like, we developed that whole idea where a guy finds a genie, makes 2 wishes, but the second wish is the genie's freedom because he doesn't feel he needs anything else. But then because of a legal loophole in genie law, because there's still that unanswered wish, technically that guy is still the genie's master.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
No, you want to keep going down this pitch meeting? We said we were going to end in a TV pitch.
No. I mean, that's it. That's basically what the pitch was. But then, like, when we were doing stuff, we would like just like pretend we were those characters that we developed. Also, I mean, like, real kudos. Do you want to know what the first wish of my character was? I gotta share this, and then we'll talk about something else. I promise. Like, because this is real navel gazy. I understand that. Is wish number one was I wish I was Devon Decker, and then wish number two was the freedom of the genie. And the genie, like, well, you already are Devon Decker. I'm like, yeah, but I want to be Devon Decker. All right, wish granted. What do you want for your second wish? I'm Devon Decker. I have everything I want. I wish for your freedom. Well, this was awkward. Bye. And then when he tries to leave Rhode Island, he can't. He's there's like a wall there. We were crazy. We were nuts. And it's led me to question his existence more times this week than I am excited to admit.
So what is this last topic of the day that we have to touch on?
So the last topic of the day that we have to touch on is I got back into competing in video games this past week.
Mm-hmm.
And that felt pretty good. I'm not going to lie to you.
I'm glad to hear that because I watched that day that you sent out. Well, one of the days that you sent out the link, and things were not looking like they were going so great. What was going on, Dave?
So I mean, it depends. I mean, the games that, first of all, what I want to say is that from the standpoint, we've talked about a lot of competitions that I've been a part of, right? And I've been critical of them, but I have to say this one, it was show up 15 minutes before we start, and we were given clear instructions on what was expected of us, and it ran like a well-oiled machine. We were supposed to start at 6. I think that we actually got started at maybe 6:05.
Yeah.
But like that's from introductions and things like that, and making sure that people can come to the channel and actually watch what was going on.
Right, the right people, because this is a judged competition, right?
Well, it's not a judged competition. It's you're given a goal. It's monitored. It's for entertainment. It's like a game show, right?
Yeah.
The way that it was being run. But no, it's not like they got to vote on who did better, and that's the person who gets the points.
What I mean is like like you had to have like a timer up on screen next to your play so that they could monitor exactly like when things started and all that stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got a little, and the whole thing is that was going to be Sega the Hedgehog, Sonic the Hedgehog, Super Mario, and Mega Man games from the series, from any of those series. Now that's where I messed up. And we'll get to that part of it because that's sort of the end of the story. So the first game that I got assigned for this event was Super Mario 64. And you had to collect 20 stars in 20 minutes, and whoever had more at the time of that would be declared the winner.
Okay.
And I foolishly got locked into the fact that I wanted to get to the basement for the basement stars. I learned something about Super Mario 64 that I don't know if anybody ever knew, to be completely honest with you. And that's if you save and quit after Bowser in the Dark World, you don't retain the key that you get for beating Bowser.
Yeah, that was a bit of a bitch. That's kind of the stuff I was talking about. As I watched that happen, and I fully expected you to have the key. You started doing your reset, and I was like, smart, save your time getting down the stairs and all that shit. And then all of a sudden, you couldn't get in that door, and I was like, uh-oh.
I mean, that was a complete accident. Like, I was so amped up to keep moving that I moved the cursor down to save and quit. But then I'm like, you know what? I'm actually okay with it because I will get the motive. Like, I'll be able to move and avoid stuff. So I'm like, it was a little bit of a snafu, but let's see what happens. But then I didn't have the key, and I don't know why I didn't have the key.
Yeah, that was really
I've
good.
never experienced that before, ever. And I'd like to job it out. But I was so obsessed with that I didn't realize I should just be collecting stars. Also, I wasn't aware of time in that first match at all.
Yeah.
Like, I was just so focused on getting that done. And it was good because the next two matches, I put up a timer for myself on screen so I would be able to monitor how much time was left.
Yeah.
And, like, be able to pivot if it felt like I was behind. Because the other thing is, I had no idea what my competitor, Metroid Master, was doing.
Yeah.
I didn't know where he was. So second game was Sonic and Knuckles as Tails, getting through the first 3 zones. And I got very far, and I ended up winning that one. And I guess this would be my one critique of the event, was the first round was worth 1 point, the second round was worth 2 points, and the third round was worth 3 points. So then those first two rounds kind of didn't matter at all when one of us
Right.
won one and one of us won the other one.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's
it,
kind of but that's the standard
I mean, that's like,
for
right.
gaming nowadays when you're working with specific what's the word I'm looking for? Not necessarily entertainers or comedians, but specific personalities,
Right.
right? Like you're not just a Joe off the street that might win some money, so it doesn't really have to be a thing about who wins. It's just more about
It's about
the
having
fight.
fun, and I had a blast. I do
Right.
want to, like, as I'm talking about this, I had an absolute blast. My father watching me during Sonic, was related to me afterwards, was so into it. And he's like, oh my God, he had 4 lives and now he's down to 1. And I don't know what's going to happen. Like, if he loses, he goes back to the beginning. And oh my God, he just got 2 more lives. Now he just needs to stay alive and ahead of this guy.
I don't think that I've ever gotten through that much of Sonic and Knuckles. I'm not a huge Sonic player, so when you got to the third world there with like the basically the jungle
The Marvel,
temple
yeah.
level, yeah, like that level was fucking wild to me, and I realized that I don't know. I think part of the reason that I was never really huge into Sonic as a video game is not just because I didn't have a Sega, because I had friends and family that had Segas, but the idea being that like I don't know what the oeuvre of that game is. Is it a collectible? Is it a speed game? Like with Mario, like I Super Mario World to me is such a great game because you start playing it as I just want to get to the end of the level, but then you slowly start to realize there's more going on. And so you go back and you look around and you find secrets, and then you realize like I really should be looking everywhere I can. And it becomes a much more methodical going through that game. So like that was always my story with those games. With Sonic, I've never gotten past the idea that like Sonic go fast, me get to the end as quick as possible. And then like you're going around into these areas and flying around with Tails into places that I'm like, oh, there's no way that like Sonic could ever get up there. So you would need to play as Tails in order to see this part. But is that the point that you're supposed to like go around and see every piece of the level?
No,
Like what is a
that's not at
Sonic
all.
game?
So the Sonic is another example of a game system that was sort of ruined by marketing.
Mm,
Because the marketing has got to go fast, right? That's
right.
how they market those games. But going fast in a Sonic game is kind of the quickest way to lose,
Yeah.
because there are obstacles that you have to overcome in the Sonic games. The
Hmm.
main drive of the Sonic game is to get to the end of the level. And then it becomes to collect the Chaos Emeralds, which requires a little bit more methodical play, right? Making sure
Right.
that you have 50 coins in order to activate
Right.
the
There's
warp to it.
entire like bonus levels and
Yeah,
stuff. Right. Exactly. See, that's what I mean is I don't even think about that stuff when I think about Sonic.
yeah. So, but that's like a thing of it. But playing in a competition like this, where it's just progress, get as far as you can, I'm like, okay, I need to make sure that I avoid any of these bonus levels because that's just a time waste if
Yeah,
I
it's a
go
time
into
sink,
the
yeah.
bonus level. And like there's a moment, if you go watch the VOD, it's at twitch.tv/Big John. You'll see Fox Zero there as one of the video names, and you can watch what happened. But there was a moment in Hydrocity Zone where I wound up in like the room with the big ring that takes you to a special stage, and I was able to stop just short of Tails hitting it, which would have been like a 30-second time loss.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
honestly, with how close that race ended up coming, would have probably cost me the match. So it's like it was knowing that stuff. But the fact of Tails and everything about that is his ability to fly over obstacles makes him easier to get through the levels. But then by the time Sonic and Knuckles came along, they had given like a whole different type of obstacle to that highest part of the level where Tails will be.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's interesting, and it's one of those ones where like Sonic 1, it's very much get to the end of the level. There's not so much of it. And Sonic 2, they have like Casino Night Zone is Sonic 2. That's a one I think of where like the pinball elements were added into
Yeah.
the game.
Right, right.
And so you have to get through like a pinball board to move on. And so that's something. But by Sonic 3 is the only one that scares me of the original Sonic series. And that's because I don't remember the name of it. It's that game's version of Casino Night Zone.
Yeah.
It's like Night Festival or something like that.
Yeah, the like carnival.
Yeah, Carnival Night Zone is the name of
Yeah.
it. Carnival Night Zone. There is a part that you get to where if you're playing a Sonic or Tails, no matter what, the original version of the game, you get to a point where you're on a barrel that is spinning and going up and down. And the way through that is to hold up and down with the barrel in the rhythm that it's moving. And as you hold those buttons, the barrel will go further up or further down until it goes down far enough that you're able to jump down and complete the level. And as a kid, I got to that and I had no friggin' idea what to do, right?
Yeah.
I had never finished Sonic 3 because of that one obstacle. And then Sonic 3 and Knuckles came out and they kind of patched that out, for lack of a better term. So I've beaten Sonic 3 and Knuckles as every character with every emerald. But it's one of those things where, like, oh my god, if I get Sonic 3 and I have to go through Carnival Night Zone, I'm screwed. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the thing. So I just kind of got lucky with getting that game that, like, I had refamiliarized myself with. But then I never play as Tails because I didn't expect... That's, like, kind of giving you, like, an easy mode. Because, like, you can fly over parts where you'd be walking in water that is slow and you have to worry about breathing.
Yeah, it's Funky Kong in the latest Donkey Kong Country with Tropical Freeze, where they give him the ability to surf, and so you can kind of just avoid a ton of the problematic elements of a stage.
Yeah.
And you know, it's good because there's people out there that love those games that just like the what's the word I'm looking for? The not anger, but like the
frustration.
The frustration of getting through that, right? Like, is just not fun for some people, for a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a way to mitigate that frustration and make the game... It's accessibility. It's something we talk about a lot with video games on the Say Report, is like, these games should have these accessibility options so that they can be experienced by wider groups of people. It's these people who are upset that, like, Elden Ring may have had an easy mode and what that meant. And it's just like, well, you don't have to play on easy mode. But, you know, an 8-year-old who wants to play this game because he watched his dad play it, it allows him to interact with that world. And I don't know. And then if it's a word about trophies and things like that, then they can put in the trophies that you need to complete it on normal or higher. Like, it's...
So, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, I don't mean to do that. So then after Sonic 3 and Knuckles, I had 2 points. My competitor had 1 point. So it came down to the final game. And that's where It's Anything in the Series kind of screwed me over. And honestly, if Siegen hadn't subbed to my Twitch channel, this would be a very different conversation. I would have been dragging Siegen through the mud this entire episode. Because
I realized I had a free sub to give out. So
I definitely appreciate it. Thank you very much. But it was Tetris and Dr. Mario from the Super Nintendo system. Specifically Dr. Mario.
Wait, but that's not Mega Man.
No, that's not Mega Man, because the fact is there are 80 games and you pick at random one of the numbers, sort of like Deal or No Deal, and then whatever game is behind that number, that's what you play.
I just thought you meant each round was going to be one from the series, one from that series, one from that series. Okay.
Right, and that would have been different, and maybe things would have gone a different way because I have a lot of experience with Mega Man, right? I have less experience with Sonic, and probably comparable with Mario, though not necessarily the 3D Mario games. But, you know, whatever. I mean, I went how I went, because I got Dr. Mario, and the challenge was to start at level 18 and get through level 20. And we had just recently talked about, and it's where we joked that we put things into the world, and that's why I was so mad at you for putting the Super Nintendo version of Dr. Mario out into the world to eventually come back and hit me like a karmic boomerang, to quote Howie the Duck.
Man. I am very happy that that's what you played, because we had just talked about it, and I was sitting there and I was just thinking, like, man, I actually don't know if I like this version. We were talking about how it feels a little bit more slippy, right?
Yeah, because I over rotated a bunch of the pills, and I'm just like, oh my god, because I'm hitting for NES.
Yeah, and I was playing the NES one since then, and the same thing with the Warriors Woods. That was kind of how this conversation got started,
Yeah.
right? Is I was playing the ones that are available on the Switch, right? And I was like, man, this is actually like super stiff and gross. Like I'm actually having a hard time with this. So I tried the SNES ones again, and I was like, yeah, it's this is my way of playing it. So I was laughing because we had actually talked about it, and we had kind of talked about how the original ones maybe felt a little bit better, but I've come around, and I actually think the SNES ones are really a little bit more my speed, as it
So
were.
it's not necessarily that it feels better or anything like that. It's weirdly that the SNES one is a little bit more responsive because it has the processing power to react to your button presses a little bit better, right?
Right.
So like this level of methodic play that you get because you know you kind of like have that extra time as the pieces are spinning or as the pieces are moving. Like if that's how you got used to that game,
Yeah.
and like Dr. Mario was a game I played as a kid, right? My cousin owned it. And then, gosh, 10 years ago at this point, I had joined the band Anti Goals. I was playing Nintendo Live for them when they did shows, and they did the Fever song from Dr. Mario. So, like, I had to learn how to get really good at Dr. Mario.
Hmm.
Because back in high school, again, talking this, I had played Nintendo for a band, and it was reversed for me. It was the first time I had ever done something like that. So I had to play Super Mario Brothers mirrored. So like left was right, right was left, and all of that. And I played horribly, right? To the fact that it became talked about, man, whoever was playing Mario fucking sucked at Mario. And I'm just like, this, I take this to my grave. I will never admit that it was me playing Mario up there.
Yeah, but you were playing it backwards from behind the
Exactly,
screen,
and
right?
that's
Yeah.
and that's the thing. But it's one of the, I mean, obviously, I'm not taking it to the grave. I'm sharing it on the show, so that's the thing. And I felt pretty good because then I played Punch Out, and I got through like Great Tiger in the time that they played a 3-minute punk song. So that felt pretty damn good. Actually, they played Roller Coaster Girl for like inside baseball jokes between you
Nice.
and I is when I played Punch Out for. But yeah, so I didn't want to look like a fool again like I did that time that I played Super Mario Brothers very poorly. So I bought a copy of Dr. Mario and I practiced to get to the point where I am now, where like I've cleared the NES version, but then going to the Super Nintendo one, both Tetris and Dr. Mario, they feel a little slippy or like looser. They're not as tight.
Yeah.
And that's something. I mean, I still think I did pretty good at some of the runs of Dr. Mario. I mean, level 18, the viruses start so high up that even the RNG of the pills that you get, you might not be able to continue with the level.
Right.
So, like, if it's like all blue and red up top and you're given like 3 yellow pills, you're like, well,
You're done.
where am I going to do this?
Yeah.
And it felt good. I ended up losing because my competitor, he was able to get to level 19, but I think I got down to like 40 viruses at one point, so it felt good. And it was fun playing that game and getting to highlight, because every other game that I had seen up to that point was just kind of the like Super Mario Brothers 2 or Super Mario Brothers 3, a Mega Man game, maybe on Game Boy. It wasn't one of the ones in the series that like features the characters but isn't the general way that you interact with them. So
Yeah.
that felt cool to be part of the first game like that.
It was a good time, man.
Oh, good.
Like checking you guys out playing was a blast. I thought you were going to come at me with some great knowledge about Mega Man being in Dr. Mario, and that didn't happen. So
No, I'm
it's all
I'm
a
sorry
bust.
about that. No, I wish that Mega Man was in Dr. Mario. He could probably kill viruses much faster than Dr. Mario throwing pills at them into that weird jar. I mean,
Throwing the wrong pills, Dr. Mario. You're not really that good of a doctor. You keep giving me these yellow pills.
hey, it's none of my fault. You know, I'm a like a guy here.
You
I'm
know,
a
I am a
plumber.
plumber.
I do what I can.
Yeah, you know what? What is the mythos of Dr. Mario, the man, the
Can I
blue?
tell you my favorite theory that is a brand new theory that I have come across this year that makes so much fucking sense to me that it has to be the truth?
Yes, please. I asked this question in earnest.
So, what is Mario and Luigi's last name?
Mario.
Dr. Mario is the third Mario brother.
Oh, Or like Mario Daddy. Well, no, he's probably the same age as him,
Yeah,
right?
he looks very similar to Mario. They are
So
twins.
he's like Tony Mario,
Yeah, he's like,
Luigi Mario, Luigi Mario, and Anthony Mario,
yep,
Tony Mario.
yep. I'm Anthony Mario, Doctor M. The Anthony Mario M.D. Take your oversized pills.
Take them all, every single one of them. But I
I'm
don't know if I need this one. It's
gonna throw it
okay.
down your throat, and it's
I'll give
okay.
you another one, and it'll cancel it out.
Yeah, it's I think that's the thing. When I heard that Dr. Mario is a third brother to them, honestly, every issue I've ever had with the character evaporated away into nothingness.
Oh man, yeah, wild.
Because I'm not making a plumber a doctor just for fun. I mean, of course, that is completely disproven by like later games in the series where he's in his red and blue and then he puts it on. But I think on some original level that might have been the intention behind the character. And it really feels that way when you look at something like Smash Brothers, where he plays similar to Mario but with noticeable differences.
And they can be on screen together
At the same time. I don't know. It's a fun time to think about. That's the truth of it. But yeah, so Retro Battle, it's still going on. So again, it's twitch.tv/Big John. It was really great to work with Big John. I appreciated that. So I do want to give him that shout out and thank him for the experience. And it's really reawoken that like competitive retro gaming urge in me. So who knows what I'm going to do with that going forward.
So if you watch his feed, do you get to hear like the conversations and the goals and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so he does commentary throughout the entire competition. Okay. So it's like watching a sporting event because you watched this on my channel, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And so my only real issue was I had no idea what you were doing the whole time.
Right.
I just knew you were playing, but I didn't know what your goals were or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's why part of the reason why I was so upset of what was happening in Super Mario 64 is I didn't know that you were just going for 20 stars. I thought you were trying very hard to get through that door and you got screwed, and then you went back to that to Bowser and then you couldn't kill him again. Oh man.
Yeah, it was disappointing. It was really sad because like if I had gotten to the basement, the time that I had put into Bowser is offset by the free star that Toad hands you, and then like every star in Lethal Lava Land is like super fast. So
yeah, but I was gonna say that like I'm surprised that now knowing that your goal was to get 20 stars, that you wasted any stupid time in that ice world with the damn penguins.
I mean, those are fast stars. That's the problem.
If you can get through that world.
Yeah.
That is not a fast level for old Siegen because, man, you know how many times I fall down that damn mountain?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And I'm like, I know there's a faster way to get this stupid penguin to its mother, but I'm going to do it as safe as possible.
I was screaming at that stupid little shit.
I couldn't pick him up.
Diving. You couldn't pick it up. I just started screaming at it.
And that's the other thing. And that's the last thing, right? This is a comment on Super Mario 64. I have been spoiled for Super Mario 64. I used to play the N64 version like every year. I'd get out an N64 and I'd usually just do a 70-star run, right? Just to like remind myself of the world. I'm not a big fan of Super Mario 64. It hasn't aged very well, is what I'm going to say, to be super kind. But like
it's a love-hate relationship in this house with that game. We talk about playing it when we are like angry at ourselves and want to punish each other.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first movie that I ever like worked on location. They like flew us out to this house where we were filming in the house, and in the chill out area, which is a fun way to call the living room where most of the tech crew slept. They had put an N64 for us to entertain ourselves. And I did a 120-star run in order. I collected every star in order.
Nice.
And that was a fun thing to do. I'm not going to lie.
You get paid.
Yeah, and then I got paid for it too. But like, that's the last time I truly loved Super Mario 64. Was when it was like the only port in the storm. And I did that, and it's never felt that good. But then I didn't realize some of the nice fixes that were like under the surface of the Super Mario 3D All-Stars version of that game.
Oh yeah, man. And that game is still super frustrating, but definitely plays better than the old one.
Yeah. And then also I was able to get a version of that unlicensed PC recompilation of the file, and then slap the mod on it that makes it look and play like a modern game.
Yeah, yeah.
So like I go back to the N64 version of that game, and I'm just broken for like all of the ease of access that I have gotten to play the game with since I've played it on N64. But again, these are not excuses. I had a blast, and it was just decisions that I made that should have been different and better. But at the end of the day, I take solace in the fact that the game that it was decided on was Dr. Mario. Even if I had won those first two, like, if I had won that first one, I might have lost the second one, and it still would have come down to Dr. Mario. Like, It kind of, both of those first games sort of became invalidated by the fact that whoever's the best at Dr. Mario on the Super Nintendo is going to be the one moving forward in this competition.
And ain't no one going to beat Anthony Mario.
Goddamn Anthony Mario. All right. So is there anything else that you want to add before we send this one out to the ethos to be listened to?
No, nothing too huge. I mean, we're getting close to the end of the year. I don't know if there's anything too crazy going on with that, but everybody just stay safe this holiday season. Start enjoying your stuff. I am doing our holiday watching. We are still in Hanukkah, so we're focusing on the Hanukkah watching. We just did American Pickle last night.
That's a good movie.
Yeah, it's a very, very good movie. So we've got one more night of that, and then we're going to start moving on to some of the more crazy Netflix ones. I did watch Castle for Christmas, the Carrie Elwes Netflix romantic Christmas movie that was put out. And have to say that I do recommend it if anybody out there is looking for some good just saccharine holiday watching this season just to have on when the family's over and stuff. You could do worse than a Castle for Christmas with Brooke Shields and Carrie Elwes as your leads. Also a bunch of very delightful Scottish people. It was a fun one, but still focused on Hanukkah right now. But if anybody wants to start talking to me about Christmas stuff, please do.
Yeah. My parents watched Castle for Christmas, and my favorite part was trying to figure out who Brooke Shields and Carrie Elwes were based upon the clues given to me by my father. And really, these were the clues given to my sister by my father for her to figure it out. And then I'm sitting there like, oh, it's Carrie Elwes and Brooke Shields. Like, I got there pretty quick. And then she's like, I have no idea what these references are. So then I'm like, Robin Hood from Men in Tights. Oh, okay. I don't know how to give you Brooke Shields, Dale. I don't know if you've ever watched a Brooke Shields property in your life.
Yeah, it's okay. This is probably the best one.
I mean, that Suddenly Susan. I liked that show.
There you go.
Where she was a journalist or something.
Really, but not even a Princess Bride reference for your sister? No?
No, I mean, like, I led with Robin Hood Men in Tights. That's her favorite Mel Brooks movie. Yeah. That's a lie. I think High Anxiety might be her favorite now, but for a long time it was Robin Hood Men in Tights. So it's like I know that she's going to get it off of that. And then, of course, I would go to Princess Bride. And then probably Days of Thunder. Because we just watched it.
Saw. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know, yeah.
I don't know if she's ever seen Saw. Seesaw?
Seesaw? Soy sauce.
Soy sauce.
There it is.
Yeah. So that's it. I have to ask you, did you watch Lights Action Hanukkah or Lights Camera Hanukkah? Was that one that you watched?
I'd have to go back and look, man. All of the
I thought that you talked about it earlier, like last episode, because my mother was on local radio playing a real or fake Christmas movie edition. And they described a movie to her that sounded like a movie you had just told me about.
Yes, I think maybe, you know what it might be, is I might have had my movies mixed up last week, and it might have been that was the Fred Savage one, whereas Mistletoe and Menorahs is the really crappy one. What was it, Lights, Camera, Hanukkah? Is that what you said?
Lights, Camera, Hanukkah.
And man, whatever one Fred Savage was in this year, there was Love Lights Hanukkah. That's
Love Lights Hanukkah, right? So Love Lights Hanukkah is the name of it. So the guy gives a title of the movie, and then describes Love Lights Hanukkah. So I'm like, oh, that's fake. That's a fake movie, because it might be a real description, but that's not the title of it, right? So that, like, in a game like that, it's kind of trying to screw you over. But if you don't give me the proper title, that's it. But then they ended up contacting my mother afterwards and being like, oh, we actually gave you a real movie and you said it was fake. And we said that you were correct in saying it was fake, but upon further, like, review, it was real. I had just read the card wrong. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. I listened to it. And we talked about Love Lights Hanukkah on the show. And when I heard who was in it and the title, I'm like, that's not the right movie. That's not the right title for the movie he just described.
Well, if your mom got it wrong because of listening to us, I make no apologies because she should not be listening to us.
Yeah, right. There's this is for entertainment purposes only. The Say Report. But it was just something funny there. But also, speaking on Hanukkah films, this is a reminder that this coming Friday on the Adam Sandler Cinematic Universe, we'll be releasing our season finale of season 2, the Adam and series, with a delightful look at 8 Crazy Nights. Adam and Adam and Adam.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. It's going to be a good holiday feature this year, and kind of works its way right into a lot of the stuff that's going on for us over here. So
yeah, so I think
everything all coming together.
So just heads up, if you want to be informed before that drops on Friday, check out 8 Crazy Nights. And what better day than the last night of Hanukkah?
I do believe it's one of the ones that's up on IMDb TV right now. They've got a whole bunch of Adam Sandler ones right now.
Well, actually, I mean, I don't know. I'll talk about it here, too, because it's the tail end of it, but we're going to talk about it on the ASCU, too. That's how I know Bezos is listening. Because whenever we say that a movie is that we're going to cover, whenever we release the name of it, it goes on IMDb TV free with commercials.
Oh, man.
Think about it. Jack and Jill did it.
Yep. No, I know.
I don't know. It just felt kind of weird. But yeah, that's it. So if you would like to recommend any holiday watching to Siegen, he can be found on Twitter at Siege versus the World, and he'd love to hear from you.
And if you have any other trivia answers you need to feed Devon's mom, you can reach out to him at Devon D. Decker, and he'll make sure she gets them.
All right. So until next time, Will, please bring us home.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Siegen Selwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so it's delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.